Welcome to the Echo Tips Podcast.
Here's a sneak peek into what we're going to cover in this week's episode of the Echo Tips Podcast. There, I held up my hand and she stopped. Wasn't that cool? Echo, set a timer for 3 seconds.
3 seconds, starting now.
Okay, let me back up here a little bit and see if it works. Okay, I'm gonna back up. Oh, yeah, it's... Well, hello, and welcome to the Echo Tips Podcast. It's good to have you all with us this week, and we have an interesting show dealing with kind of an interesting thing when you talk about voice assistants, and you usually think of voice commands. But did you know there are other ways to interact with your Amazon Echo? And this is kind of an interesting thought of where devices may be going in the future, and we have seen some similar concepts on other competing brands. So it's just kind of very interesting about facial orientation, looking at a device, waving at a device, gesturing at a device, and getting it to do something. So today we're going to be talking, we're going to be kind of revisiting some concepts from episode 293 dealing with conversation mode, which is no longer called a conversation mode. So that might be helpful to you. Also, something that I had never noticed was available on my Amazon Echo Show, and that's where you could do a hand gesture to basically get it to stop doing something, like stop an alarm or stop a timer. That's right, talk to the hand mode. It's not called that, but it should be. It's probably trademarked. That's why I didn't use it. Talk to the hand mode. Anyway, so very interesting. I never knew that was in there, and it's kind of buried under a different setting than this other setting, and they renamed the setting. So I think I just need to bring you all up to date on what this is going on with this. So anyway, these are all things designed to make an interactive experience with your Echo better, and with the conversation mode, or what it used to be called, really engage and create more of a natural, fluid thing too. So these kind of are all related into it looking at you and you doing something other than giving a verbal command, and yet it doing something or not doing something or stop doing something. So I thought they all should be kind of put back together and do a little refresher on this as well, since the nomenclature's kind of changed a little bit. Well, anyway, I'd like to welcome our new listeners. Welcome, you new listeners. The returning listeners, welcome as well. But you new guys who are wanting, and gals who are wondering what the show is all about, I'd like to welcome you. Welcome to the Echo Tips Podcast. We're in our 7th season. We're a weekly show. We try to keep our shows nuggetized to 5 to 15 minutes. Oh, no, what? I should say 15 to 25 minutes. I got the numbers wrong there. Probably 15 to 25 minutes long. We occasionally will have omnibus episodes, and we clearly label those as longer episodes. I am considering an omnibus episode. I don't know. There's so much to talk about this one skill. I don't even know how I'm going to cram it in, but maybe I'll mention that a little later. But what are our episodes dealing with? Everything to do with our Amazon Echo A-Lady devices, and I don't say the A-Lady name generally until we get into things, so I don't trip your Echoes at home. But we talk about skills, games, applications for parents, caregivers, seniors, youths. We talk about media playback. We talk about home automation, all things connected with your Amazon Echo. And as new hardware rolls out, we talk about that as well. So it's a pleasure to have you with us. And like I said, if you want to check out and you're trying to maybe solve a particular problem, by all means, go back and check out our back catalog of over 300 episodes where we've talked about almost everything under the sun. And you can find that at our website, CertDoctor, CERT, DocTor.com. Click on blog, and you should find a blog entry that's relatively recent. We need to tweak it and keep updating it with all the back catalog of podcast episodes. You, of course, can go to your podcast player of choice and, slowly scroll back through the list as well and find all sorts of things. Like today, we're going to be talking about something that was originally covered back in episode 293, and now we're in the 3. Wow, that was a while back. That was that's going back a ways. So anyway, we'll be covering that and kind of dusting that off a little bit in connection with this Talk to the Hand mode today as well. But before we delve into our content in any sort of depth, we're going to go to a brief message about our podcast, and then, as always, we will be right back. Hello. It's me again. We usually have somebody else reading this segment or something else playing in here where we have a little nod to grants and different things we received over the years that really made this podcast, especially in the early days, possible. But now this show is completely wholly owned by yours truly, and so we don't really have any sponsorships in here at the moment, although we may be willing to entertain that here in the future to help keep the show going. But I still wanted to have some sort of call to action here about the, from the Echo Tips podcast, just a generic kind of thing. We're at the beginning of a new year, and there are a lot of nonprofits out there doing good work, and maybe some in your local community. Maybe a little elbow grease, you could go offer some help and volunteer, or maybe you could send them a few dollars. But if you don't have maybe a particular nonprofit in mind, I'd like to mention one that I often donate to, at least on an annual basis, and that is the Wikimedia Foundation, the owners and operators of Wikipedia, which is a really powerful resource. I often find myself over there looking things up and like, when did this come out, and what's the history of this product, and what processor did this have, or just all sorts of different things I may want to look up. A great example is me trying to find an author, and I'm like, what is the sequence of their books, and which one came out first, and this is a prequel, and I find that terribly difficult. And if you go on to like book reading websites, they're often trying to sell you everything under the sun, but Wikipedia is just glorious for that. You can often go on there and find an author and their whole book series, and it's just a wonderful resource for so many things. So consider donating to the Wikimedia Foundation. You can do that at donate.wikimedia.org. This is completely unsolicited, and I'm just throwing this in here as a nice little call to action. But now we'll return to our show. Well, hello again, and welcome back to the show. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about what I discovered kind of by accident goofing around in the app. You sometimes just never know. You're looking around, and you're like, wait a minute, huh? Hand gestures, what? And so I was looking around and stumbled across this feature with my Amazon Echo Show. Now, in particular, I have an Amazon Echo Show 3rd generation 8-inch model, which is one of the newest models, which was demoed on stage in 2023 during their Amazon event, talking about the potential of future AI being infused into the A-Lady, which has not come yet, and I am disappointed, but I'm glad that they're really trying to work out the kinks, because it could be disastrous if they rolled it out before it was ready. But some of the native features they built into it were trying to help facilitate conversation. And one of those that I demonstrated back in episode 293 was called Conversation Mode at that time. Now, since then, I've logged in today, and it's not called that anymore. Even back when I think I did that, it was called one thing on my Echo Show 8, but on my Echo Show 10, the one that had the spinning top that could follow you around the room and like you're watching a video, it keep you in view. That one, I think, called it something different, although they might have synchronized at one point. But anyway, it's not called Conversation Mode. It doesn't appear to be anymore. But you do have to access it on the device. So on the Echo Show, you need to swipe and go to the settings, or just ask her to open settings. And then I think it's a section called Talking to the A-Lady. You tap on that. And then in that pane, you want to go down to follow-up mode. And that's what's kind of counterintuitive. I was looking for conversation mode. You hit follow-up mode, and then on the next page, they've wedged all this stuff into one category under the umbrella follow-up mode. So follow-up mode, you might recall, is, I don't know if I really like it or not. Some people do. But it kind of lingers after you give a command, like you say, hey, lady, what's 2 plus 2? And she lingers after that to see if you want to give her another command. If she doesn't hear anything obvious within like 15 seconds or 20 seconds or something, she'll just kind of shut down and go dormant. So it's kind of this longer thing where you could, after she says, 2 plus 2 is 4, you could get, okay, well then what's 4 plus 7, without having to say her name again, and she would continue to go. Now, this was especially integrated into the AI demo back in the day, but it's been available before that as a feature. But now, on the settings panel under that, it says advanced follow-up mode. You can also toggle that on. So in addition to having the lingering thing where it's waiting, just like a period of time for another command, in advanced follow-up mode is a rebranding of what was conversation mode, where it uses the camera to look for your face to see if you're looking at it or not. Now, not so much your eyes, at least back when I did episode 293, it wasn't so much your eyes looking at it. I don't even think your eyes needed to be open. It was just a matter of your face pointed at the device. And to do that, you had to go through a procedure, and I've already done that on mine back in episode 293, although I describe it in more detail there. But you would need to train it on your face, and I think it takes some pictures of you. It takes you through a little tutorial and things like that. And it does appear, based on when I did that back in episode 293, that it stored all that information locally. It has a very clear privacy policy thing there that describes things. And plus, I had to do this on separate devices, the one at the office and the one at home, even being on the same Amazon account. I still had to configure them separately because it stored the biometrics locally. So, and it looks like it was just kind of a rough, image of my face, because it doesn't like have LiDAR or anything, so it can like map the 3D curves in my face. It's just using a rough facial kind of, I guess, orientation mapping system to know that you're looking at the device. And when it sees you looking at the device, it's like saying her name, like the A-lady name. Okay. So that's conversation mode. Now, the other mode that I discovered, I don't know if it's on the settings panel in the Echo Show, but it is in the settings on the A-Lady app. So if you go into the app and then you go to devices, you find your Echo Show, and I know this is on the 3rd generation 8, which is the newest processor. Whether it's been backported to the older ones or not, I don't know. But you go in there and then you go to the settings gear on the top right, and then you scroll near the bottom and you come up about 5 or 6 things, and you'll see something about hand gestures or gesture control. And you go into that, and that's where you can turn on talk to the hand mode, which it doesn't call it that, but that's what I'm calling it, which is basically you hold up your hand like a stop sign and it stops doing something. And in this case, it stops an alarm or it stops a timer. Now, I would love it if it did more than that, or it had some granular controls, like it could stop music, or I could stop a reminder. Oddly enough, it doesn't work with reminders, because a reminder can be going off, and I tried it, and it doesn't work. It seems to only work with timers and alarms. But anyway, hey, let's stop goofing around and let me demo this. Now, if you have an Echo in hearing distance of my voice that responds to the word Echo, because currently I'm using the Echo Show that's set to that wake word, you may want to shut off its ears. So just FYI, okay? All right, so I'm going to do this. All right, so I'm just going to set a timer. Let's just do it for 10 seconds. How about that? Echo, set a timer for 10 seconds.
10 seconds, starting now.
Okay, so she's going to go off here in 10 seconds. By the way, these Echo Shows connecting to Bluetooth are still as wonky as they ever were. I had a lot of trouble with that today. Okay, so it's going off. It's clearly going off. Oh, is it going off? Did it see me look at it? Oh, there it goes. Just got a little bit of a lag. Okay, so I'm going to hold up my hand here in a second when it starts going again. There, I held up my hand and she stopped. Wasn't that cool? I thought it was pretty nifty. I wonder about the, let's try the alarm. Echo, set an alarm for 1 minute.
1 minute alarm set for 12:48 p.m.
Honest to God, I have no idea what my jingle is for the alarm on this device. Maybe the T-Rex from Jurassic Park or something. Oh. I don't think that a minute had gone by, but okay. All right, I'm going to hold up my hand. Hang on. Oh, there we go. I held up my hand. So now I wonder how far away I can be because I'm holding up relatively close. Echo, set a timer for 3 seconds.
3 seconds, starting now.
Okay, let me back up here a little bit and see if it works. Okay, I'm gonna back up. Oh, yeah, it saw the hand. It's a couple feet away. Okay, so that's cool. I don't know if I'm being all the way across the room will work or not, but hey, it was definitely that's handy. I like it. I would love it if it worked with more things. And I even made me wonder, if we could get some really kind of weird Jedi, like swipe left, swipe right to skip a song. That would be kind of wild, but maybe it would interpret you flailing about or doing gestures the wrong way. I don't know. Anyway, so now let's move on to the other mode which I was talking about, which used to be called conversation mode. Now it's called follow-up advanced mode because we got to rebrand everything. And that's where it sees my head point at the device. Now, I will mention something weird about this, and I don't recall this being the case before, is I'm pretty sure it requires me to turn up general follow-up mode first before I can turn up advanced follow-up mode. In other words, they both have to be on at the same. Well, I can't use the facial follow-up mode without the main follow-up mode being on, which I kind of found the traditional follow-up mode kind of obnoxious, where it could linger afterwards, like I'm trying to talk to somebody after I've asked it a very clear question, like something on my calendar or something, and then she's still lingering. I'm trying to talk to someone. Oh, what did you want to, I wasn't talking to you, right? So I don't know if I like that because, okay, y'all, I'll tell you what, let me go into the main settings because I think maybe they've changed the way this is architected. Let me go in here into the settings and let's see how it describes it. Hang on. The power of post-production. You should hear this in a second.
Enhanced follow-up mode. Switch. Toggled on. When you're in view of the camera and facing the screen, you can interrupt Alexa or extend your time to make follow-up requests without the wake word. 3 of 4.
Okay. So I think it makes sense now why they're calling it follow-up mode. In the early iterations, you could use it to prompt without saying the A-lady name. Now it looks like it's just integrated into the function of extending a conversation or the ability for you to interrupt a conversation. So not to prompt a brand new conversation out of the gate. So in other words, in lieu of the wake word. Little post-production recording, given the differences, subtle changes here where it doesn't act as a wake word, although it does seem to really drag out for a long time. So if you've talked to it in last 30 seconds to a minute and a half, it looks like if you look over at the thing, it'll get reprompted again. So it was a little confusing there, and I had to reboot the Echo a couple of times to see, make sure I'm telling you guys right. So, but it looks predominantly like we described, an interrupt function and a continuing of the conversation. Although, like I said, it drags out after a while. You can keep turning your head over and probably ask it something else. So let's give it a try here, especially with the interruption capability. All right? And so I got to get the ball rolling first. Echo, what's the weather report?
Currently, in Roanoke it's 43 degrees Fahrenheit with cloudy
Okay, I'm
skies.
gonna interrupt.
Tonight, you can expect rainy weather, with a low of 34 degrees.
What's the weather in Seattle, Washington?
In Seattle, Washington, it's 38 degrees
I'll
Fahrenheit with
interrupt
rain.
again.
Today,
What's 2 plus 2?
2 plus 2 equals 4. Don't you know math is my favorite subject?
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's interesting. Oh, see, my head was still pointed that way when I started to talk. So, yeah, that's interesting. So that it's working differently than I had thought. So that explains why they changed the name a little bit. Anywho, so all of those things hopefully will help facilitate a conversation in the future when we do have the AI smarts. Okay, well, that will wrap up this episode. If you have any thoughts or suggestions for a future episode, I'd love to hear your feedback. I did mention about maybe doing a jumbo omnibus episode. I don't know if I can cram it all into one episode or two, maybe two. The trick is I really don't want to burn you guys out on a particular skill or app, but it is a very important skill, and that is the National Library Services app or skill that's in open public beta now called My Talking Books, which has access to a huge catalog of streaming books and hopefully in the future magazines, which they also generally distribute, but isn't in the skill yet because it's in a beta. And I did a demo of this a few weeks ago, but I really feel like we need to come back to it with some constructive criticism. I really love the fact that the skill's out and I've been listening to books, but I do have some feedback and I got a lot of it. So anyhow, so I'm trying to figure out how we can integrate that into the show. If there's anybody that has any input on that, it might just be one giant omnibus if I can cram it all into one. But I'm looking to maybe do that and revisit that topic here in the near future. Or if there's anything else you guys would love to hear about, please let me know, and maybe how you interact with these features as well. If you have any feedback about that, you can reach out to us at ecotipspodcast@cert, C-E-R-T, Dr. DOCTOR.com, and that's the same domain where you would find the blog, where you can find a listing of the podcast episodes. And we'll probably be putting up there too maybe some information about the newsletter, which I'm continuing to do, which often list various Echo tips and then links to the old podcast and other things connected with assistive technology, if that's your game and something you're interested in. And that newsletter has been rebranded. It used to be the New Vision newsletter, and now it's the Vanguard Access Tech newsletter. Anyhow, that will wrap up the show. And once again, it's time to turn the ears of your Echo back on, start practicing some of the many things you learned. And I'm David Ward, and we thank you for listening.